So, when you realize your house has a problem, say the roof is leaking or the wiring is sparking, your first instinct is usually just to patch it up, right?
Right, yeah. You hire a roofer or call an electrician.
Exactly. You fix the isolated issue and go back to your life. But imagine calling a contractor about a leaky roof, and they take one look at your house and tell you the only solution is to demolish the entire structure.
Oh, wow, just completely tear it
Yeah,
down.
tear it down, dissolve the very concept of property lines, and completely rebuild what a house even is from the very ground up. And that is exactly what we're getting into on today's deep dive. Welcome, everyone. We are looking at a blueprint that asks us to demolish human society right down to the studs.
It is quite a heavy topic today.
It really is. We are examining a translated 2013 document, and it's titled The Second Home's Holographic Management Briefing. It was written by Su Feng and edited by Kinyu. And this document, it promises to eradicate war, famine, crime, basically all of it.
Right. But the catch is, it asks us to surrender our families, our traditional governance, and even our very concept of privacy to do it.
Which is kind of wild to wrap your head around.
It is. I mean, the scope of this document is just a fundamental overhaul of human existence. It is not, a policy white paper proposing some minor societal adjustments or tax reforms.
Yeah, definitely not tax reform.
No, not at all. It is a radical proposition for a literal utopia. It demands a complete reimagining of how human beings interact, how we organize our daily lives, and the psychological framework we operate within.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the mechanics of this proposed lifestyle, the philosophy anchoring it, and, well, the pretty daunting prerequisites it demands of anyone trying to live in this new world.
Yeah, and before we dive all the way in, we should probably just offer a quick disclaimer.
Oh, absolutely. As we explore these ideas, you have to keep in mind that the concepts in this text are sweeping. They are highly idealistic and deeply unconventional. We're exploring this blueprint purely as your guides today.
Right, we are not endorsing these philosophies or taking any political sides here.
Exactly. Our mission is just to analyze the source material, shine a light on its internal logic, and dissect the author's ultimate vision for humanity.
So to understand the mechanics of this society, I think we first have to grasp the sheer scale of what the second home is attempting to achieve.
Right. What is the ultimate goal here?
Well, according to the text, the primary objective is to foster this absolute harmonious coexistence among individuals within society and with the natural world.
Which sounds great on paper.
Yeah, it envisions a united global family living in total peace. So this means a complete eradication of international conflicts, regional tensions, ethnic disputes, and any religious or political divisions.
The text also explicitly states its aim to eliminate unemployment, famine, environmental pollution, and significantly reduce crime.
It's a massive checklist.
It really is. Looking at that list, you see an attempt to cure the entire catalog of modern global crises with just a single, unified solution. But right in the middle of these massive geopolitical issues like famine and war, the author drops in something incredibly intimate.
Yeah, they really do.
The text states it aims to free humanity from the troubles, pain, and unhappiness often associated with marriage and family life.
Which is, placing the family unit on the exact same list of problems to be solved as international warfare. It is a jarring pivot.
Yeah, it really takes you by surprise. Okay, let's unpack this, because from a traditional sociological standpoint, the family is like the foundational building block of human organization.
Right, it's how we structure everything.
Yeah.
But the text views traditional marriage and family structures not as foundations to protect, but actually as engines of division and suffering.
Is this like trying to fix a leaky faucet by completely removing all the plumbing from the house? I mean, think about the worst, most bitter holiday argument you have ever had with a relative.
We've all had those.
Right. Now imagine a governing body looking at that micro-conflict and deciding the solution isn't better communication or therapy, but rather abolishing the concept of relatives entirely.
Distance.
It feels like taking a sledgehammer to a core human institution just to avoid the friction that sometimes comes with it.
The sledgehammer analogy definitely captures the radical nature of the proposal, But the author's logic treats human suffering as, well, basically a fractal issue.
A fractal issue, like the patterns repeat at different scales.
Exactly. In their view, suffering at the macro level.
Like a war over national borders.
Right, and suffering at the micro level, like a bitter dispute over an inheritance or a marital betrayal, they are symptoms of the exact same underlying disease.
Which is what, exactly?
That disease is division, the concept of us versus them.
Oh, I see. So the argument is that tribalism essentially originates in the home. Because I have a family, I have a group of people I prioritize over strangers. And that prioritization eventually scales up into nationalistic conflicts.
That is the text's underlying premise, yeah. The everyday structures of our lives rely heavily on exclusion. A family unit inherently creates a boundary between who is inside the family and who is outside.
Right, my family versus everyone else.
Exactly. If the ultimate goal is a single, undivided global family, then smaller, fractured, or exclusive familial units are viewed as obstacles to that global harmony.
They just get in the way.
Right. The author is arguing that you simply cannot achieve planetary peace if the basic units of society are breeding grounds for exclusion, pain, and localized loyalty.
Okay, but if you eliminate the family unit to stop these micro-conflicts, you create a massive vacuum of social structure. Like, who takes care of the children? Who supports the elderly?
Those are the immediate practical questions, yeah.
How does a society prevent total collapse into chaos when the very rules of the household are erased? You would assume a society without traditional families would require, like, the most complex, strictly enforced legal and welfare system in human history to maintain order.
You would think so, but the text anticipates that structural vacuum. And its proposed solution is the exact opposite of a strict legal system.
Really?
Yeah. This introduces the core mechanism of the document. It's called holographic management.
Holographic management?
Yes. The text states that the worldwide implementation of this management style is the only way to achieve their utopian vision. Yet, the document immediately introduces a massive paradox regarding how this management actually functions.
Here's where it gets really interesting, folks.
Yeah.
The paradox is that the essence of holographic management is actually defined as non-management.
Right, non-management.
The text calls it Tao management. It emphasizes the need to minimize human intervention entirely, and instead follow the way of nature rather than human will.
Which sounds very abstract.
It does. Let's try to visualize the mechanics of this. So, is this like building a highly advanced self-driving car, but the ultimate goal is to completely let go of the steering wheel and just trust the road to guide you?
What's fascinating here is that the self-driving car is a helpful starting point, but it really only explains the sensation of the passenger.
Okay, so what's the rest of it?
To understand the mechanics of Tao management, we have to look at the road itself. In the context of this document, Tao management operates on the belief that the universe already possesses a flawless, inherent order.
Like gravity.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly like gravity or the changing of the seasons. The rules are already written into the fabric of existence.
So human laws are basically just clumsy attempts to replicate or, I guess, fight against a system that is already functioning perfectly well without us.
Precisely the text point. Human will, our attempts to force outcomes, legislate morality, control behavior through top-down enforcement, it all just creates artificial friction.
Oh, I see.
Let's apply this to a concrete example. Imagine two neighbors in a traditional society disputing a property line.
Okay, pretty common issue.
Right. They hire lawyers, go to court, and a judge enforces a human-made boundary. But under Tao management, this dispute doesn't escalate to a courtroom because the underlying conditions causing the friction.
The human desire to claim exclusive ownership of the earth.
Exactly. That desire has been recognized as unnatural. Non-management means stepping back and allowing the natural, unforced alignment of human behavior with universal law to resolve or really prevent the conflict entirely.
But for that kind of passive resolution to work without descending into, the strongest neighbor just taking the land by force, nature has to perfectly connect everyone involved.
Right, there has to be an underlying network.
The road, the self-driving car, and all the pedestrians have to be flawlessly synced in their programming. So how does the text justify this invisible, perfect connection that allows us to safely let go of the steering wheel?
Well, this brings us to the philosophical architecture of the document. The text asserts that the universe is holographic.
Holographic.
Yeah, and in this specific philosophical framework, holographic means that the whole is fundamentally contained within every single part.
Oh, like breaking a holographic photographic plate. If you shatter the glass, every tiny shard still contains the entire 3D image, just at a lower resolution.
That is a perfect representation of the concept. So, applied to society, it means any change anywhere affects the whole.
Everything is linked.
Right. The text maps an unbroken chain of consequence. Changes in the universe impact the Earth, and any changes on Earth affect all of humanity. Therefore, isolated events simply do not exist.
And the text provides a chain reaction to really illustrate this, taking this massive cosmic architecture and bringing it right down to the kitchen table. It says, imagine one person gets angry.
Right.
That anger does not stay trapped in their own head. It spills over and affects their family members.
Which goes back to the micro-level friction we discussed earlier.
Right, so the family's upset. Those family members then go to work, and their lingering bad mood affects their coworkers.
It just spreads.
Yeah, and those coworkers interact with the broader community, affecting the nation. And ultimately, this national unrest impacts the entire world. The text deduces that one single person's anger has a ripple effect on all of humanity.
It explicitly invokes the butterfly effect.
It does. It argues that the actions and words of an individual, or a family, or a political party unavoidably alter the entire global ecosystem.
The author is basically establishing a physics of human emotion. Just as a drop of dye irreversibly changes a glass of water, an internal emotional state alters the global environment.
Which forces us to confront a highly provocative conclusion drawn by the text. The document states, and I quote, "There is no separation between internal and external. There is no such thing as private matters. Everything is a public matter. All internal affairs are global affairs."
That is a huge statement.
Wait, no private matters. Think about the implications of that for a second. If every bad mood you have, every moment of jealousy or frustration is treated as a global crisis, that sounds incredibly invasive. If every bad mood I have is a global crisis, isn't that a terrifying amount of pressure? It sounds like a psychological surveillance state where your own internal thoughts are subject to public scrutiny.
It is entirely understandable to recoil from the phrase, no private matters. I mean, our modern instincts immediately associate that with dystopia, loss of autonomy, and invasive surveillance.
Definitely. Big Brother vibes.
But the text does not approach this from a political angle of a government spying on its citizens. It uses a specific biological analogy to reframe this invasiveness as an inescapable law of nature.
Right. It compares humanity to a human body, and a private grievance to a splinter piercing a toe.
Yes. The text argues that the Earth is a whole organism, just as an individual is a whole organism. So if a splinter pierces your toe, your brain is not surveilling the toe or invading its privacy by feeling the pain.
It's just aware of it.
Exactly. The consequences are simply felt throughout the entire body. Your gait changes to favor the foot. Your immune system triggers inflammation. Maybe your heart rate elevates slightly, and your overall mood sours.
So it isn't advocating for a society where neighbors spy on your private moments. It is presenting a philosophy of absolute, unavoidable interconnectedness.
Precisely.
Trying to keep an emotional state a secret is as futile as trying to tell your foot that its splinter is a private matter that the rest of your nervous system just shouldn't worry about.
That is the crucial distinction here. In a holographic universe, the concept of a boundary between internal and external is just an illusion.
Wow.
So the pressure you noted earlier, it isn't the pressure of being watched by a state authority. It is the immense existential weight of recognizing your profound responsibility to the entire human organism.
Okay, that philosophical framework makes sense internally, but it highlights a terrifying practical problem. If every toe splinter affects the whole global body and every flash of personal anger eventually hits the world stage, how on earth do we prepare humans to live in this radically interconnected, unmanaged state without destroying each other?
That is the million-dollar question.
I mean, if we dissolve our laws and implement non-management today with humanity in its current state of division and tribalism, we wouldn't get a utopia. We would get absolute, immediate chaos.
Oh, undoubtedly. And the author is acutely aware of that danger. You cannot simply flip a switch, dissolve the legal system, abolish the family unit, and expect a global utopia to organically emerge from an unhealed population.
Right.
So the text explicitly outlines a massive, uncompromising prerequisite that must be met before holographic management can even be attempted.
The ultimate catch.
Yep. The text reveals that individuals must first undergo a process called soul purification.
Soul
Yeah.
purification.
Yeah.
And the text is brutally honest about the difficulty of this requirement, isn't it?
It really is. It describes soul purification as a complex and challenging endeavor. It serves as a stark warning, actually. Without this purification, holographic management is an impossibility.
It just won't work.
Exactly. If this psychological and spiritual overhaul isn't executed correctly, the promises of peace, harmony, and non-management will remain just an illusion.
Let's break down the mechanics of what soul purification actually entails within the logic of this document, because it isn't described as a weekend meditation retreat.
No, not at all.
Based on what we've discussed about the text's aversion to division and property, purification must mean a systematic dismantling of the human ego.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It would require unlearning the instinct to hoard resources, letting go of exclusive attachments to family members, and completely decoupling your identity from material ownership.
You are describing the exact friction of the process. Soul purification is the agonizing work of rewriting the human psychological code so that our natural default state aligns perfectly with the peaceful flow of Tao management.
It's an active purging of the human will to control, dominate, and separate.
Yes, until the individual is upgraded to this state of pure, unselfish interconnectedness, the society simply cannot safely function without the intervention of laws and police.
Now, what grounds this entire deep dive, taking it from an abstract philosophical thought experiment into something tangible, is that the text claims this isn't just theory.
Right, there's a practical application.
Exactly. It mentions a real-world experiment. An organization called Lifechanyuan actually established a physical community called the Second Home to beta test this exact mode of holographic management.
The inclusion of a practical beta test fundamentally shifts the tone of the document.
It really does.
The author claims that, based on over 3 years of practice within this second home, holographic management is not an unattainable fantasy.
So what did they actually do for those 3 years? I mean, we can infer from the text that they attempted communal living stripped of traditional family units, personal property, and hierarchical enforcement.
That's the implication, yeah.
And they claim this ideal can be realized on a larger scale, provided that broader society offers understanding, support, and patience while they refine the model. They believe they have empirically proven the concept of a functional, non-managed utopia on a microscale.
It is a really bold declaration of success. They are positioning themselves not just as philosophers, but as social engineers who have cracked the code of human suffering and run a successful pilot program.
Which makes a certain formatting quirk in the source material we are looking at today absolutely fascinating. So what does this all mean? Right as the text reaches its crescendo, preparing to lay out the structural pillars of this proven utopia, it boldly states, and I quote, "Holographic management comprises 8 major connotations."
And then
it provides absolutely nothing.
just a completely blank space in the manuscript.
The text gives us a colon and then immediately skips to the next paragraph. It entirely fails to list what these 8 foundational pillars are.
That is wild.
It's like being handed the ultimate blueprint for saving humanity, only to find the most critical page has just been torn out.
It is a remarkable, almost comedic omission in such an ambitious document.
Right.
Whether it is a formatting error lost in translation, a deliberate mystery designed by Shifeng, or a casualty of Kinyu's editing process, we are left completely in the dark regarding the specific structural details of those 8 connotations.
We just have no idea.
No idea. Yet, even missing the central pillars of its own argument, the overarching certainty of the author's message remains incredibly stark.
Because the text does not end on a note of ambiguity. The final takeaway is absolute.
It is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author leaves the reader with an uncompromising stance. The text concludes by stating, holographic management is humanity's way forward. There is no other way.
There is no other way.
The sheer audacity of that claim is breathtaking. They are asserting that they have diagnosed the ultimate root cause of all human suffering, from world wars down to broken marriages. They have discovered the cure through soul purification and alignment with the holographic universe, and they claim to have tested the outcome. In their view, every other form of human governance is a failed experiment. This is the only path.
There is no other way. That is a massive declarative period at the end of a very radical sentence. Let's briefly retrace the enormous territory we have covered today.
We covered a lot.
We did. We began with the staggering ambition to completely eradicate global strife, famine, and even the internal micro-conflicts of marriage and traditional family life. We analyzed the paradox of Tao non-management.
Right, the concept that the most effective way to govern a society is to cease enforcing human will and allow natural universal laws to dictate harmony.
Exactly. And we then explore the underlying physics of this proposed reality, through the lens of a holographic universe.
Cool.
We examine the philosophy of the toe splinter, really grappling with the heavy implication that absolutely everything is interconnected and that the concept of a private matter is biologically and cosmically impossible.
Unavoidable interconnectedness.
Yes. And finally, we uncovered the grueling prerequisite of soul purification required to survive in such a system, all while marveling at the mystery of the missing 8 connotations.
It is a profoundly challenging text. It forces you to completely deconstruct the foundational assumptions we make about why society operates the way it does.
Definitely.
And it makes you question whether the friction we accept as normal human behavior is actually necessary. It demands that the reader look at the world not as a collection of isolated individuals and separate nations, but as a single, highly sensitive nervous system where every thought and action registers on a global scale.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something you can extract from this radical blueprint and apply to your own life today. The text forcefully argues that your personal emotions, even a fleeting flash of anger, ripple outward to affect the entire global ecosystem.
Even if we do not live in the experimental community of the second home, and even if we have not undergone the rigorous process of soul purification, what if we chose to treat that butterfly effect as an absolute, undeniable truth today?
That changes things.
It really does. If you truly believed, bound to your core, that your internal emotional weather directly altered the global climate, how might that realization change the way you speak to the very next person you interact with?
Are you adding a splinter to the global toe, or are you doing the necessary work to help heal it? It's a heavy, powerful question to carry with you. You may not need to demolish the entire house of human society today, but we can certainly take a much closer look at the kind of energy we're bringing inside it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the second home. Keep questioning the blueprints you are handed, keep exploring the foundations, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.